Excited about the opportunities in this election, and what people are telling me is that politics as usual isn't working, and that we need a political party who's going to tackle the tough issues, things like, how do we rebuild our local economies and create good jobs? How do we address rising energy prices and climate change in a way that creates jobs, strengthens our economy, balances our budget? And how do we ensure the sustainability of our healthcare system by ensuring that we prevent illness in the first place? People have access to clean air, clean water, healthy food, primary healthcare reform, and investing in our seniors so they have good quality home care and long-term care instead of expensive hospital care. And I'm finding that those messages are resonating with folks. We're the only party that's standing up and saying no to the mega quarry, which happens to be at the headwaters of the Grand River, and is going to affect our water here. Even though I know that quarry's in Melanchthon, it's going to affect everyone here in Kitchener-Waterloo. We just need a government that's going to say no to it. And even one MPP at Queen's Park will stand up to protect our water, protect our farmland, protect our natural and cultural heritage. And so I just thought, while we're here today, I wanted to give everybody just an opportunity, if you have any questions or comments or anything, to ask me directly while I'm here. And I know many of us have already had some conversations, but anyway, you're welcome to answer any questions you might have.
Collingwood area, I was up there, everywhere it says no to windmills. It seems to be a huge movement up there against wind power.
Yes.
What do you say to those people?
Well, most of those folks are my neighbors, actually, because I have a home in Dunedin, which is just south of Collingwood. And so what I've been saying to folks is that we don't have to accept the false choices between the Conservatives killing green energy and the jobs and the benefits to our environment and our economy that green energy is bringing. But we also don't have to accept the Liberals' approach, which is imposing corporate wind on communities without their participation. And so what we've been proposing is that we move forward with green energy in a way that provides local ownership, local decision making, and ensuring the financial benefits flow to our local communities. And if you look at Germany, where green energy has been very successfully rolled out, 250,000 Germans own equity in wind companies. That isn't how it's being done in Ontario. 3 million Germans have solar installations. That isn't how it's being done in Ontario. So if we take the Green Party's approach, I think you'll see less opposition because people are going to be participating in the decision making. They'll be benefiting financially, and the community's voice will be heard in terms of where you site, place. Exactly. Yeah.
It was a big success.
Yeah. And also I look at the development in Ridgetown as an example too, where the whole community is partnered with the company bringing it in. So even if there isn't a turbine on your land, you still benefit because everyone's benefiting. And also the company's doing things like, they put sensors on the red lights, so the red lights don't blink all night to keep people awake. So only when a plane flies in, then it sets one of the sensors off and the lights blink. On a very windy day when the noise of the turbines may disrupt people more, they shut them down on those days. So they've sort of developed ways in which the project and the community are partnering together. And that's the approach I think that needs to happen in Ontario. And unfortunately that isn't the way many of the projects are being developed. Yes?
Do you have any understanding how the green aspect of the Liberal Party, which is very valuable,
Yes.
how we actually work and commit to the Japanese company instead
He's talking about the
Samsung deal, right? Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I think, and this is, I think typical Liberal politics is they negotiated a backroom deal with Samsung, a Korean-based company, and they've actually given Samsung priority access to our grid, as well as additional subsidies to develop manufacturing facilities. So all good intentions, but the reality is because of that now, there are Ontario companies and Ontario businesses that can't get access to the grid because it's been reserved for Samsung, and I don't think that's right. And also I've been told by a number of Ontario companies that they were planning on investing in solar and wind manufacturing facilities in Ontario, and they've decided not to because one of their competitors got a special deal and they didn't. So I think the better way to go is just say, let's have open, transparent policies that if you as a company qualify, you get in the program, and regardless of you're part of a backroom deal or not, we can hold it fair for everyone. And I think that's the much better way to go forward. And again, if you look at a country like Germany, that's exactly how they did it. If you think of Arise Technologies based right here in Kitchener, Waterloo, they invested in Germany because they qualified for a program, and they qualified for a program because they met the criteria, not because they, had access to the Minister of Energy. And so I think that's the much better way to move forward in Ontario with green energy or with any bidding for any contracts.
I have two questions. One is, I know that the Green Party has traditionally been a supporter of proportional representation.
Yes.
I didn't see that in your 5-point
Yep.
plan, and I wanted to just hear you reaffirm that's still the case.
Yes.
And second, I want to know what your position is on raising the Ontario works rate in Ontario.
Yes. So on proportional representation, we're still very strong supporters of proportional representation, no question about it. I mean, when I meet with German Greens and talk about the fact that we had ridings in Ontario where we received 33.4% of the vote in the last election, and they say to me, oh my gosh, no German Green has ever achieved those vote totals, and yet we've had German Greens as cabinet ministers. And in one province in Germany now, they've actually formed the government. The reason it's not a part of our 5-point plan was we felt that after the last referendum, and I would say that that referendum failed, I would argue, because most people really didn't understand what they were voting on, because the education system around it was not very good. But we felt that we didn't want to appear as if we were pushing an issue that was benefiting us as a party or in self-interest, and because it's so soon after the last referendum that we decided, you know what, we can win in a first-past-the-post system. We're going to put all of our effort in doing that, and we're going to put forward ideas that will make a real difference in people's day-to-day lives to build a financially, socially, and environmentally sustainable future. And we decided to focus on that. Your second question was about
Ontario Works.
Ontario
What's your
Works.
position on raising the rates so that people
Yes.
are not living in flop-houses?
Yes. So we're in support of raising the rates once the budget is balanced. And the reason I feel like we have to prioritize budgeting getting our deficit under control right now is that interest on debt now represents $11 billion a year in our budget. It's the third largest spending category behind health and education. And if we're going to have the financial resources to fund our health system, fund education, fund important social services, build the infrastructure our communities need, we need to make sure our tax dollars are being spent on those essential public services and the people who deliver those public services, and not on interest on debt. And so that's the approach we've taken. And what we're basically saying, we get our budget deficit under control, is we're saying delay tax cuts for large corporations on their profits until after the budget is balanced. We're saying in the subsidies for energy use, so, well, in the period, because we shouldn't be subsidizing wasteful uses of energy, period. And we're asking non-unionized public sector workers in managerial positions, like 6-figure positions, to take a pay freeze until the budget is balanced. Because we're basically saying everybody in the province needs to contribute to this. But we're not asking, we're not saying cut welfare rates or anything like that, because the most vulnerable in our society shouldn't have to contribute. But those are large corporations, people who get good salaries, and the rest of us, we all should contribute to that so we can spend our resources on the important services for people.
I know on the federal platform, they were talking about first $20,000 of your income being tax-free.
Yes.
I'm wondering on the Ontario level, where would we be looking at for taxes?
We support the exact same policy, which is basically like a guaranteed annual income or a negative income tax, it's called, depending on, you know, most policy experts have told me that it's very difficult to implement that kind of program just at the provincial level, that you actually need the federal government to be a part of it. So our position has been we support the federal Green Party of Canada's efforts to implement that program, and Green MPPs will advocate for Ottawa's participation in supporting a program like that. Yes.
Where do things stand right now with regards to the chance of you being able to be represented in the leaders?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first of all, everyone goes to letmikespeak.ca and sign the petition. That will help, because I mean, one of the reasons Elizabeth May was included in the 2008 leaders debate was that there was such a groundswell of grassroots support for her inclusion. The last time I looked, in the last week, we've had over 6,000 people sign the petition, so the numbers are definitely growing. There's also a nonpartisan campaign organized by actually somebody who I know, who I met first of all because he was working for an NDP candidate against me. So his name's Dave Meslin, has started a campaign, and he has signatures from Liberals, Conservatives, and members of the NDP, as well as nonpartisan municipal councillors and community leaders, all saying the Greens should be at the debate table. So I think it's going to take that kind of grassroots mobilization for our inclusion in the debates, because it's clear to me that the media consortium isn't going to include us. I mean, the good news is Steve Paikin and the TVO's agenda has agreed to give the Greens equal coverage with the other three political parties on all programming for TVO's The Agenda. And I think they've done 2 programs so far, and I think Jim Harris represented us as somebody who was not a candidate. They wanted a non-candidate sort of spokesperson. They did a great job, and Steve Dick, who is our candidate in Guelph and our energy critic, represented the party with the other, in the debate with the other energy ministers last week. I thought he did a great job. The feedback I'm getting from folks is that having the Green Party at the table adds to the debate, and I think part of it is we're just offering good ideas and sensible long-term solutions, and we're not about trashing the other parties. Like, let's put that kind of attack ad and hyper-partisanship behind us and just talk about solutions and ideas. And so that was one of the things that won Steve Paikin over, is our approach to politics and the contribution we're making. Now we just need to convince the media consortium. I mean, to her credit, Andrea Horwath of the NDP came out on Friday saying that she would be happy if the Greens were at the debate table. And so, let's all start putting pressure, right, Mr. McGinty and Mr. Hudak, and say, will you agree to having the Greens at the table? Ollie Crane, who is the leader of the Conservative Party in Prince Edward Island, just came out saying that she won't participate in the leaders' debate in PEI because the Greens have been excluded. And historically, the Greens have participated in leaders' debates in PEI. So this is the first to exclude us actually there. So we just have to keep speaking out.
I was going to say, any chance that A Channel will do something for you like they did with Elizabeth May and have maybe you and Andrea Horwath, because she seems amenable to debating you as opposed to the other guys?
That's a great suggestion. We already have, we've already confirmed with CB24, the Stephen LeDrew show, that Stephen's going to have me on the night of the debates if I'm not included in the leaders' debate.
Oh, that's good.
We've tentatively agreed to be on the show with the understanding that we may have to cancel. Great. Okay. Yes. Yes. So our position is that the provincial government should be providing no funding and no support for the development of genetically modified organisms. In terms of the approval process, that all happens at the federal level, so provincially we don't have a role in that. But the role we have to play is that we as a province are going to be funding any research and development in the genetically modified product. And certainly we're going to work with the Green Party of Canada to to ensure that GMOs are properly labeled and all of that through the Canadian food inspection agency.